ensuring that the agreement that had been made by the previous government and those that were in hotel quarantine actually was paid in full, and that's what we're pursuing.
Premier, people are saying that they didn't receive those warnings before the money was taken from their account. Do you accept that it might be worrying for people to hear that Service New South Wales can garnish from their accounts without them communicating directly with them? Is it enough to just send out 3 notices and not get a response?
Well, look, a couple of things. Obviously, we've checked those reports this morning, and I've been assured that they had been warned quite a few times, in fact, numerous times, before the money was effectively garnished. But I don't think it would slip anyone's attention that if they spent 2 weeks in hotel quarantine, even if it was 2 years ago, that bill had to fall due. And in many cases, the system was put in place so that we could allow people to come back into Australia in extremely difficult circumstances, and the quarantine payment issue could be sorted at a later date. Well, that date's today, and unfortunately the government needs that money to run essential services in the state.
Is it worth putting people's accounts in debt for that?
I mean, it's really important to know, and I think fair-minded people would say in the community, that if you've been warned multiple times over and over again for years, in this case for years and years, that at some point a decision has to be made, and I think under the circumstances the right one's been made.
I think 17,000 people still owe money. Will all their accounts be drawn down, or just people whose details the government has?
Look, I'm not going to speak to that. Obviously, Service New South Wales is in communication with those people, but I don't think it would have slipped anyone's attention if you spent 2 weeks in hotel quarantine. And the circumstances around hotel quarantine and the fact that the bill would be paid later was really an attempt by the then government to ensure people would come back to Australia as quickly as possible, and we worry about who would pay the bill and the debt later on. Well, that day is today, and unfortunately the money's got to be returned.
Should people be concerned that the state government might access their bank accounts for other reasons?
Well, people obviously have an account with the New South Wales government, particularly Service New South Wales accounts, and I want to make sure that people are aware that in these circumstances, people who came back to Australia, in many cases had hotel quarantine for 2 weeks, were warned many and multiple times before any action was taken.
The school phone ban begins tomorrow. Do we know how that's going to roll out and how that'll look in most schools? Or?
Yeah, I just want to make this really clear. The phone ban will be in schools as of tomorrow in New South Wales public schools. It's universal, it's across the board, it's for primary schools and for high schools. And it is essential to ensure that young people in particular can focus on the schoolwork in front of them and teachers have an attentive class. We've seen mobile phone use in schools explode in recent years, and at the end of the day, test scores have declined over the same period of time. Research out of the UK unambiguously indicates that schools that have had a phone ban in place receive better academic outcomes for 16-year-olds. And I think that anyone can see that, I've got one here, that these mobile phones are designed to distract young people. With their notifications, with social media, with gaming technology, we cannot expect young people to focus on their academic work while they've got a phone pinging in their ear every other second. We are taking action to get it out of schools once and for all.
Will the government be doing anything to track the mental health effects?
We've got good mental health coverage in New South Wales schools when it comes to long-term rigorous academic research. This is a decision that hasn't been made exclusively for mental health grounds. The primary driver of this decision is around the distracting nature of mobile phone and smartphone technologies. And I think that the academic and research community have got to take some responsibility for the fact that these have become ubiquitous in New South Wales schools without a lot of academic research prior to their effective introduction. I think that this phone ban should have been put in place years earlier, and we all know many adults that find it difficult to put down their phones and focus on the job at hand. Why are we expecting children and adolescents to have the kind of discipline that adults don't have?
The Black Belt Institute is obviously concerned that the government hasn't looked at the mental health effects.
Look, a couple of things. Heavy usage of mobile phones and smartphone technology has, via peer-reviewed academic research, led to young people in particular being less happy and less satisfied. So if we can take mobile phones out of circulation, at least during school hours, we believe overall it will have a positive impact on young people's mental health, and that's been borne out by research conducted around the world in different jurisdictions. And I think it's also important to note that in the UK, some schools had a phone ban in place and others didn't, which allowed for a far more rigorous regression analysis of what was happening in UK schools. So we're basing it off that research. We think it'll make a big difference. The media commentary reported this morning is not peer-reviewed regression analysis of New South Wales education or even education across the country. It's a discussion paper. But I think any parent, any teacher, any rigorous analysis from other countries and jurisdictions around the world will tell you mobile phones are distracting to adults, to children alike. And we shouldn't have to expect students in particular to have to battle with mobile phones and social media and games and text messages while they're focusing on their schoolwork.
A number of survivor groups, including the government, urging support state conversion to all states and countries target market. Can you explain why you wanted to join the support?
Yeah, no, we went to the election campaign with a clear mandate that we would introduce a piece of legislation in relation to conversion therapy. We will do that by the end of the year. We'll commit to and fulfil our election commitment, but it's government policy, and we're going to introduce a government bill.
What does it know about Alex Building?
Yeah, I mean, I just urge people to have a look at our legislation when we introduce it. There's a couple of things about the member for Sydney's bill. It's effectively an omnibus bill. I'm not knocking it for that, but it involves a whole range of changes to practices for LGBTQI people. We want discrete standalone bills so that members of the LA and the LC can make their decision, and it's not too far away.
When you think about